As a young cellist playing Bach's cello suites, I was instructed to outline different musical voices. This seemed to be something that everybody knows, but few tried to explain. Since then, I found that while these voices can be traced horizontally in the score, often they are only implied by the context. For this reason, I'll call them essential voices. The notes of the implied essential voices do not necessarily appear directly in succession, but nonetheless seem connected. Here, for instance, though the notes C and D do not appear directly next to each other, they nevertheless seem to form a stepwise connection as part of an essential voice. The connection between two notes of an essential voice can occur even if one of the notes is shifted by an octave. At other times, essential voices can be discovered by filling in the notes implied by the harmony. Thus, if we could imagine room to add a voice that completes the harmony and supports the figuration, that voice could be understood as an essential voice. Often, an essential voice forms either a pedal, that is, a single note that is sustained against changing harmonies, a neighbor tone that moves stepwise to and from a single note, or a stepwise connection between two different tones of an underlying chord. Finally, there are also secondary essential voices that complete the harmonies, as we'll soon see. Significantly, several 19th century composers, such as Robert Schumann and Johannes Brahms, composed accompaniments for Bach's solo pieces. These accompaniments help us imagine the implied harmonic context. For instance, consider this excerpt from an arrangement by Friedrich Wilhelm Stade of the Sarabande from Bach's C minor cello suite. Such added accompaniments not only fill in the harmonies implied by Bach's solo works, but they also add creative textures and extra embellishments for artistic effect. Thus, these 19th century accompaniments are not designed to directly answer the questions I had about Bach's solo suites as a student. Namely, how many voices are there? And what are they doing? For study purposes, however, one could instead construct accompaniments that more directly trace the design of essential voices, filling out the harmonies by following the contours of the implied lines as closely as possible. Performing Bach's original solo along with such straightforward accompaniments can highlight how the notes within each of the essential voices connect, and help unify the different sections of music. As an example, consider this passage from the prelude to Bach's cello suite in G. An arrangement of the implied essential voices here might look something like this. As seen here, the lowest voice implies a pedal on G, a staple gesture for the beginnings of Baroque movements. The implied tenor voice outlines a distinctive rising fourth, that is, a stepwise motion up 4 notes from D to G. The top voice presents the neighbor motion B-C-B. And if a fourth voice were to be provided, one can also imply a neighbor G-A-G motion as a secondary essential voice that helps support the B-C-B in the top voice. The resulting 4-voice arrangement of the essential voices could be used as an accompaniment to Bach's original solo, like this. For a more detailed examination of essential voices in a Bach work, let's turn again to the Sarabande from his C minor cello suite. Of the 36 movements from Bach's suites for solo cello, only a few present a texture with a single line throughout. Perhaps the most intriguing of them is this Sarabande, where the sparse texture, wide range, and relaxed tempo provide a unique opportunity for spacious and suggestive musical effects. As with many Baroque movements, the form of this one is framed by a series of rotations. Specifically, the underlying material that is presented, or rotated through, during the movement's first half returns within 2 more rotations through this material during the movement's second half. As is typical, activity increases through the course of this movement. Nonetheless, various features of the underlying material remain the same with each rotation. For instance, the rotations each begin with a strikingly similar melodic contour. Also, occasionally the same notes appear in surprisingly similar locations within the rotations. And elements of the essential voices of each rotation likewise bear striking similarities to each other, sometimes in ways that are transformed in a manner that heightens the drama. For instance, a motivic ascending fourth that appears at the outset of the movement's first rotation, and which is repeated in a reversed descending fashion at the end of the first rotation in an upper voice, finally reappears as a bass line in a more overt manner at the movement's climax during the third rotation. Another motive that permeates the essential voice lines involves a motion through 3 scale steps, from C up to E flat, or from E flat down to C. Note how the final descending appearance of this distinctive motive at the movement's climax mirrors the opening rising motion of the motive, thereby helping to bring the sarabande to its close. Consider these motives, which help connect the sarabande's 3 rotations while we listen to the entire movement with the repeats omitted. I'll play Bach's original, accompanied by what I propose as a possible 4-part setting of the essential voice motives, supported by the secondary essential voices that complete the implied voice leading. As the movement plays, the score will appear on the screen with the motives just mentioned and the characteristic bass pedals highlighted.